After almost 19 years, StarCraft is making its return to the tabletop gaming world. There really is something about this franchise, and just long breaks in between releases, whether it be for the original video game or the tabletop game, which of course features this adorable, cuddly little creature right here. Now, this announcement came from Archon Studios last week. Now, this announcement, like most forms of early marketing, really has next to nothing to say at this point, other than this company, Archon Studios, has acquired the license to make not one, but two StarCraft-themed games. First up in 2026, according to their timeline, is going to be a tabletop miniatures game with some sort of, actually followed by board games. So more than just two games, multiple games set in the StarCraft universe in 2027, which we have no information on. All we really have is this picture here of three digital sculpts of miniatures. On the left, we have Kerrigan over here. On the right, we have Zeratul. And in the middle, I'm assuming that's Jim Raynor in his Marine battle armor, but he could be one of several characters because they all kind of look the same when they're inside their Space Marine power armor. Now, these represent the three main races in StarCraft. There technically is a Xel'Naga, but that's a whole other category. Don't worry to worry about for this particular thing. But within these three races, there are actually sub-factions, so potentially we could see more than just three factions for this tabletop miniatures game. As for what else Archon Studio has to say, they have like one more line of total marketing stuff. Let's take a look at that. The StarCraft tabletop miniatures game will allow players to command their favorite factions, Terran, Zerg, and Protoss, in dynamic tactical battles, staying true to the fast-paced and strategic essence of the beloved real-time strategy game. The game will feature high-quality miniatures, rich gameplay mechanics, and deep faction customization, ensuring an experience that both StarCraft veterans and tabletop wargamers will love. I.e., that's nothing useful for us because it's just marketing speak. But you know what? It's about time that StarCraft made its way to the tabletop miniatures world. It seems like it was just an obvious choice when you've got things like Warhammer 40k and plenty of other games out there. You got a prepackaged sci-fi franchise whose storyline is honestly a bit of a cluster. If you play through both the games, it's really kind of bizarre. It's a mess. It really is a mess. But it's got a really popular, it had a really popular multiplayer scene to it. A lot of people credit StarCraft, in particular the original StarCraft game, for being the thing that created esports as we know it today. StarCraft 2's been around for a while and probably still has a decent fan base, but it's definitely kind of on its waning side of its popularity right now. But it is, like I said, a prepackaged science fiction franchise that would be fairly easy to turn into a tabletop miniatures game. Though it would be kind of interesting what they do with some of the really big units, because granted, many of these guys are kind of human size. But of course, you have like the battle cruiser, the carrier, the broodlord, which are not true to scale in the tabletop game, because in the not true to scale in the real-time strategy game, because of course, like the battle cruiser is like that long and a human guy is like that tall, where the battle cruiser should be really like absolutely monstrosity. So you probably won't see those things in the tabletop game unless they go like full Forge World with like, what's that massive, the Manta, the massive towel thing is like 4 feet long. It would be awesome, but I would not expect that kind of a thing in an initial release for a StarCraft tabletop miniatures game. And since we're on the topic of StarCraft and tabletop games, people do see this franchise to some extent as a bit of a discount Warhammer 40k, because there are these rumors that Blizzard wanted to make a Warhammer 40,000 video game, but they couldn't for some reason. They ended up with StarCraft, and then some people say Games Workshop sued them or threatened legal action. Of course, none of this stuff, from what I can tell, has any actual basis to it. I couldn't find any sources for that, no legal documents, no actual news stories. It seems to be just things that people are kind of repeating over the years on the internet. If you actually have source information for any of these things, that would be awesome. Feel free to post that in the comments. But from what I can see, I'm pretty sure none of that stuff actually ever happened. But this isn't the first time that StarCraft has made its way to the tabletop. Back in 2007, I believe, I hope I did my math and intro right there, Fantasy Flight Games made StarCraft the board game, which was like a 4X type game where you played as one of two sub-factions within the three main factions. You kind of went from planet to planet, as in the game, mining resources, building up armies, fighting over things. It's kind of a difficult game to find. I actually still have a copy of it, as well as the Brood War expansion. I honestly don't know if I'd recommend playing it at this point. It is an old game. We did really enjoy it back in the day, but it's a very different world in terms of tabletop gaming now than what it was nearly 20 years ago. But hey, if you like StarCraft and want to pay a boatload of money for it, it's probably out there. Someone wants to sell it. When I originally purchased that game, it was kind of an odd little experience. I went to my local game store and I wanted to put an order in for it. And the employee who was putting the order in and the manager had a really weird discussion. So this game was monstrous. It's a giant box, lots of plastic miniatures. And they seem to be thinking, well, they're looking at the pricing on their computer and they are thoroughly confused because it seemed like the price of the game was basically being sold for, the MSRP, was not high enough or something. There wasn't a high enough profit margin for them. And I asked them if there's going to be a problem with ordering it. They said, oh no, we'll order you a copy. We have no problem in doing that. We're just trying to decide if we want to actually bother stocking a second copy. Like they're going to consider ordering two at the time when I ordered mine. It was really a weird thing. So I'm not sure if Fantasy Flight was doing some sort of money shenanigans or cost shenanigans at the time with that particular product, where the profit margin for it was much lower than you would expect for a tabletop game. But yeah, it's kind of odd. Now, of course, that has absolutely nothing to do with this game. It's a totally separate company. This is Archon Studios. Let's take a look at some of their existing products and how they operate their business. Now, Dungeons and Lasers is a collection of both terrain and miniatures, mainly focused at role-playing games. You've got Rampart down here, which appears to be more of terrain for tabletop wargaming. And then you've got some licensed properties. Masters of the Universe has basically a board game type thing with a whole bunch of additional expansions to it. Wolfenstein, that's another video game tie-in. You're going to see a bit of a theme here with Archon Studios. I don't believe that one is currently being made anymore. That was a Kickstarter from a number of years ago. And continuing the video game trend, you have Heroes of Might and Magic 3, the board game, which the main Kickstarter recently wrapped up in terms of actual shipping. So the main starter set has been shipped out to backers. I believe there are some expansions still to be sent out, but the main starter set is done. And you can purchase it in some languages, but not English right now if you didn't get in on the crowdfunding campaign. They have another miniatures game which has been announced, but as far as I can tell, there's nothing much for it, and that would be Heroes of Might and Magic Battles. It's actually got a couple of the former GW employees behind it, and it was announced last August in 2024. But I have not seen any updates since then, so no crowdfunding, nothing like that. And then Master of Orion Ad Astra. That was a crowdfunding where the round of funding wrapped up earlier this year, and it was pretty successful. I believe it's somewhere over $1 million, and they're getting ready to open up their late pledge manager, whatever, here in the next few weeks. Archon Studios definitely makes heavy use of crowdfunding when it comes to all their product lines. I would expect that StarCraft and both the miniatures game as well as the board game will probably get that same kind of a treatment. We'll find out maybe more about what they're going to do here in a few days, as they do have a Ask Me Anything scheduled here in the not too distant future, and pertaining to StarCraft anyway. But they have even several more projects currently in development, other than the few that I've just kind of listed off right here. And late last year, they went ahead and announced they've acquired the license for Quake the board game, as well as Dishonored, Corrupt Throne. Though from this article here announcing these two new product lines, there are no dates of being released yet, and there are no Kickstarter or crowdfunding campaigns for these two games. But they're in the same timeline as StarCraft, as well as the Heroes of Might and Magic miniatures game, and one more. This is Starside, which as far as I can tell is their own original IP. It's not something they've licensed from anybody. And it's another crowdfunding campaign that's going to be going live here pretty shortly. So between everything I'm counting, There's probably several crowdfunding campaigns live or going to be live here in the not too distant future, which I know gives some people a bit of a pause given what happened with that other tabletop game company who was great at licensing things and running crowdfunding campaigns. Fortunately, when it comes to Archon Studios, they've fulfilled everything as far as I can tell, so they're not running into that problem yet. But, that's going to make people nervous given how things have been going the past few years. But of course, let's jump over to Master of Orion. This game raised almost $1.4 million, so there's definitely people out there who are not super concerned about handing money to companies when it comes to crowdfunding in this day and age. So we will see how things go from here. More information is available on StarCraft. I'll go ahead and do some follow-up videos because I'm definitely interested in that franchise, as I clearly have one of the little plushy guys sitting right here. He's been on and off the studio for a number of years. I've actually played StarCraft since it came out way back in 1997. I have one of the copies of the boxes that was originally mature 17 plus rated before it got downgraded teen for whatever particular reason. So yes, I'm an old school StarCraft fan, and at the very least, I'm interested in something like this. But I don't know if I feel like spending lots of money on it, to be honest with you. But I would love getting some of the Zerg miniatures because bugs. I love space bugs. Anyway, thank you guys all for watching. I'm Jason, the creator of the Tabletop Battlefield. I'll see you guys all next time.